Morning folks, so we are out on another jolly, and this time we're doing a bit of a longer jolly. So we're going to go and walk the Derwent Valley Heritage Way, or DVHW. Now it starts at Heaverdene next to the Ladybower Reservoir, and it continues all the way through the Derbyshire Dales, the Amber Valley, eventually heading down to the River Trent, where the mouth of the Derwent is. Derwent Valley Heritage Way is following the River Derwent. Now the River Derwent doesn't actually start here, it starts up at Bleaklow, between Bleaklow and Heatherdene Moor. So it's called Swains Head, where the source of the River Derwent is. Then it heads down the hilltops, across the moorlands, and then heads into Heaverdeen Reservoir, and then goes into the Derwent Reservoir, and then comes into the Ladybower Reservoir. So over that course of there is approximately 10 miles. Then once it reaches the Ladybower Reservoir, where we are at the moment, then it hits into the river itself. We will be following the river mainly all the way down through Derbyshire. And along the way, the walk starts here in the Peak District National Park, going through Chatsworth and breathtaking scenery. We're going to come across some World Heritage Site, the birthplace of the modern factory system, as well as some other interesting things to see as well. So hopefully you'll like to join me on this one. Like usual, I'll give you some interesting facts and history along the way, and as I mentioned, it's 55 miles in total. Now my plan is to do it over 3 days. Today the plan is to get to Basilo and then get up to Basilo Moor, and then hopefully wild camp up there. Problem being is the further we go on this trail, the harder it is to wild camp because it becomes more built up. Let's get cracking. The signposts that we will be following are these: a purple circle with yellow writing which says the Derwent Valley Heritage Way, and a yellow arrow. So as it mentions, Derwent Valley Heritage Way, River Trent, 55 miles. Now this is the official start point. Now we are next to Heaverdeen Car Park. If you are intending to do this yourself, you need to head for Heaverdene, which is by the side of Ladybower. You want to walk all the way through the car park. Opposite ends, you'll go past park and ride meter. Then you'll go to see a little hut where there's some toilets. You go through a little gate, then you'll see the start point to where I am now. So let's get walking on the trail, and I should tell you all about it as we go along the way. But first of all, we need to head down towards the reservoir, cross the reservoir, and then follow the River Derwent down the opposite side. So just reaching the Ladybower, and we come across our first thing, which is this point. At the Ladybower Reservoir, we have in front of us, in the centre of the picture, with this circular thing, this is a bell mouth. There is one on the opposite side of the reservoir. Now, when the water rises too much, then it controls the flow of the water, so when it overflows, and this water will probably go down into the River Derwent. Now it's an interesting way how it's been engineered. As I say, there's one on either side. Now when it is overflowing and it's going down into the hole, it does look like it's going to the black hole. Now I've seen a video of somebody that tried to fly his drone into it, but sadly he lost his drone. And that's why here there was a sign that says no drone flying. Anyway, we need to cross the reservoir now. So this is what we're going to be following for the next 55 miles. River Derwent, as it twists and turns all the way through the Derbyshire Dales, through Derbyshire itself. And eventually it will turn up next to the River Trent on the outskirts of Nottinghamshire. So the first place we're going to head along is Bamford, and then we'll past Heversage and then to Leadmill. So below me you can see where it enters the Derwent and becomes more of a river as it's come through the 3 reservoirs. Now the 2 little buildings either side, they are for the overflow when the excess water would go into the river itself. So the ridge on the top is where we stayed a couple of weeks ago at Bamford Edge on our wild camp at the end of lockdown. It is quite spectacular when it's overflowing and the water's rushing inside it, although that's usually in the winter months. In the summer months it can actually, the water can drop that much, so you can actually see the Derwent village that was sunk when they made the Ladybower. Ladybower Reservoir was built by the Derwent Valley Water Board between 1935 and 1943. It then took 2 years to fill with water to its capacity, to supply drinking water by Severn Trent Water to Nottingham, Derby and Leicester. The 2 villages of Ashopton and Derwent were both sunk in the making of this reservoir. The remains of the village still lie under the waters, and when in summer months the reservoir is at its lowest part, the village can be seen as it surfaces. The last time this happened was 2018. Although Ashopton was demolished before it was sunk, Derwent village was mainly intact, including the grand Derwent Hall and the church. The church still stood when the waters flooded in. The buildings of both villages were purchased under a compulsory order, including Derwent Hall, a large estate built in 1642. A year after the reservoir waters flowed in, the church spire still stood tall as a memorial, but due to water safety, fishing boats finding the spire an obstacle, the spire was demolished by controlled explosion. Today, the rubble of Derwent Hall and the church can be seen with other buildings when the waters are low. The Derwent Valley Aqueduct carries the water to a treatment plant in Bamford and to a reservoir at Ambergate before sent to people's homes. The aqueduct stretches 180 kilometres via a pipeline and is the biggest siphon of water in the UK, where it feeds over 500,000 people 200 million litres of water every day. The 3 reservoirs have a combined capacity volume of 46 billion litres of water. An interesting place to watch TV. As we're following a river, generally, as long as I'm near the river, then we must be close. We're following it downstream, so if I end up walking upstream, then I'm going the wrong way. Great view of Bamford Edge as we continue along, and we're heading towards, there's Bamford itself just in the middle of the picture, and then beyond that we'll head to Haversedge. Our next one of these markers. This one's got, well, basically ramblers, climbers and farming. So we've got some ramblers climbing up the hills on the left hand side, or climbing the right face. Got some cyclists at the top. I'm guessing the guy in the red is canoeing. Climbers in the bottom right corner, and then in the middle we've got farming. And the wheel type thing at the middle here, I think that's meant to represent a millstone, which the Peak District are quite famous for, in particular the northern part, because the millstones were made of gritstone. Path to my left, if you wanted to go to Bamford from here and Bamford Mill, then that's the way you would go. But we're continuing on the Derwent Valley Heritage Way. Now in front of us in the middle is Bamford Mill. Bamford itself is quite a nice little village. The church has some Commonwealth war graves within. You can just see next to that tree stem there's a coal tit. A great tit, I think. Great tit's a little bit, probably one of the biggest of the tits, other than long-tailed tit. Although a long-tailed tit, it's just got a long tail, it's still quite small. So if you like your tits, this is the place to go. Oh, just seen a blue tit, cold tit and a great tit, all in a matter of about 3 or 4 metres. So when we reach this signpost, it says Bamford Station, we take a left on this little track, we'll head down here about 50 metres and then we'll head back onto the path. Now on the left hand side, just give you a reference point. If you see this lamppost with all this wool on it, that's the way to go. Above the main entrance it says Derwent Valley Water Board and it's the Quaker Community Building. It says please shut the gate, free range children. I believe this is called Chatsworth Bridge, an old bridge. We're going to head over the bridge between the two vehicles. You can see the gateway of where we aim for. And now we're actually going to follow closer with the river. Now there's something about water. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Walking by water just makes you feel calmer and happier. And mother's got her ducklings ready by the edge of the water. I presume to meet father, who's on the river. He's having a bit of a clean. So we've just reached the stepping stones that, if you do go across this way, you can head off to Haversage. Although we're always staying on this side because we're still following the Derwent path, which is having a good effort. These last few ones are the hardest ones though. There's a bit of a gap there. This is the point that you don't want to fall. Not like the guy that did when I went on the Shepshed walk. Big jump. Can she make it? She made it. Can Mum finish it off? Right, well, we're about 3 or 4 miles into the trail now. The way I would like to do this walk, because I've seen there's other people that have done this route and recorded it, I'd like to do it slightly differently. Now, it's similar to my walks really. Generally, you look at the landscape more than look at me. My face doesn't need to be on the camera all the time. So I would prefer you to see the landscape that I'm walking, because you may want to walk it for yourself or you may not. And if you don't, you'll like to see the journey that I'm making for yourself. And you're not going to be able to see that if you keep seeing my face. Now, not saying you won't see it at all, just not very often. And I hope that's the better way, that you see what I see. And I'll talk about any history and facts along the way. You don't need to see my face all the time. You know what it looks like. If you don't, usually on most of the thumbnails to the videos. There's a different duck there. I don't know if you can see him around these trees. I do believe I'm not wrong, it's a Mandarin Duck. While I'm walking alongside the river, there's two things I'm hoping to see. One is a heron. I do see lots of herons, but I don't really catch them on camera. And if I do, they're quite a distance away. The second thing is a kingfisher. So I'd like to see if I can grab another well, not actually physically grab it, but picture it, video it. This is Nether Hall. According to legend, William the Conqueror had 6 halls built around the area of Hathersage and gave them to 6 brothers, all part of the Eyre family, for their great courage and conduct in the conquest of England. Hathersage Hall, Northlees Hall, Hog Hall, Hasselford Hall, Highlow Hall and the one in front, Nether Hall. The old hall was knocked down and rebuilt in 1840 by John Shuttleworth, who made his money from local lead mining. The hall featured in the book Jane Eyre, published in 1847 and written by Charlotte Bronte. The local village of Hathersage was renamed as Morton in her book. The Shuttleworth family continued to own the hall for nearly 180 years, where it was recently put up for sale for £2.5 million. Just in the centre of the picture now, I'm just about to make out the roof. It's the David Mellor Cutlery Works. Now David Mellor passed away. He was the person that created this lovely cutlery, and his son is taken over in his father's name. Anyway, where we are now, in a moment we're going to cross over the bridge, and this is Leadmill Bridge. Once we get over the bridge, we will follow the opposite side of the bank of the Derwent. We're not too far away from Sheffield, and Sheffield being famous for cutlery. I think even the Queen buys the cutlery from Sheffield. So anyway, we're heading this way towards Grindleford, and then past Froggett's Edge, and then we'll walk down to Calver and then to Basilo. So still got a good whack to do, probably 7 or 8 miles. So we need to crack on with it. So let's get going. So we've just reached Harper Lees. I've just noticed this on the left hand side. Now that looks like it's something that's come from a church, like a church column, the base. Could be even the base of a font. Interesting to see it just here in the middle of nowhere really, rather than this just cottage here. Anyway, we're going to take this path here and follow it alongside the riverbank for the next probably about 3 miles. As we've just left Harper Lees, just come across this big stone like that. It looks like a boundary stone. Now, there's a few of these near the village of Ime, and they used to trade between different villages. The people of Ime used to take coins to this place and with a list of what they wanted, like a shopping list basically. Changed mine. Okay, a low-flying private jet. I thought it was a military at first, but we've seen all sorts around here. It's a bit low, that was fine. Anyway, going back to this. So the ones at Ime, they drilled holes into the stone and then they filled them with vinegar. And the reason why is because the people of Ime was the plague village and they isolated themselves from the neighbouring villages. But they still needed goods from other places. So how they used it is they used to take their money and a list of what they wanted, and they used to put the coins in the vinegar, and that basically was to sterilise the coins. And then somebody would come from the neighbouring village, like there's one near Stony Middleton, and they would trade. So usually like meats and things like that, and they would put them on the stone, take the coins, and then somebody would come and collect. So the people didn't have to actually meet each other from the plague village, and they could still isolate each other. So this looks like a boundary stone, not obviously for the plague, but similar sort of purpose. That is one heavily pregnant sheep. She can hardly move. I would say 3 days should give birth. There's a Mandarin Duck. Well, there's 3 of them here. Well, 3 and a female. I think it's a food post. It's also, you can see, looks like a warbler. But this area is used for nesting between May and August. They divert the route for over that period of time. There we go, another couple of patches. There goes one. Here comes another. So there's definitely some sort of military exercise happening here. Obviously 2 patches going that way. Seen 2 earlier. I've seen Chinooks going by the other day. Just seen that jet fighter fly that way. And good for me that these military aircraft all seem to be following the River Derwent. And I'm walking alongside it. So might see a few more of this in the next few days. Still interested about the private jet we saw. That flew very low, lower than that jet did. So I'm not sure about that one. I actually did think at one point that it was trying to land in the field that I was walking across. Probably saw me and thought, oh, best not. Because one wheel was in and one wheel was out. So maybe he was going for emergency landing or something. Is that glamping? Got a tent up for the sheep. So they can stay for the night. So I presume that must be glamping for sheep. Some more lammies, little lambs. And if we look across this way, first of all, I must note the path. The path is a great path. It's like following a yellow brick road, although it's a beigey stone road, but nevertheless, it is a nice road. Then across here, just see it in the trees, that's Stoke Hall. So we're just entering Froggatt, the hamlet of Froggatt. Lovely purple flower, got no idea what it's called. As we come into Froggatt. Very tranquil around here. Water looks like it's like a lake. As we cross Froggatt's Bridge, we're going to take this footpath on the left hand side, as it says New Bridge and Calver, and that's the direction we're heading to now. Froggatt Bridge. A great reflection, the water's so still, which is surprising. Why is it so still? This is a river. Rivers don't stand still. I've seen lakes move more than this, and ponds. I've seen a puddle move more than this. So we get a good view of Froggatt's Edge from here, and the bridge as well. On the opposite side of this bridge there's an interesting house. It's been on TV a couple of times and I've actually been inside it. So I think this is called Shard House. When you go down to the lower level, the windows are at the same height as the river surface. So if you're sitting against the window, your head is above water, your feet are below water. So we're going to follow this track now alongside the river, and it will take us down to Calvert Mill and also the Calver Weir, which is I think what we can hear on our left hand side. Might be able to get a view of that. So this is Calver Weir and it's built in like an S shape. I bet you didn't think we were going to see Cinderella's carriage that she took to the ball as we walk on the DVHW. Nor did I actually. Caution, cows with calves can be aggressive. Well, I might get a bit aggressive if I can't get through this gate. It's about, I can't get in widthways or even sideways. I'm going to have to climb over this bloody fence. The building is interesting. If you notice, it's a barn now, but at one point it was a Sunday school for the local children who worked in the factories, and the government decided that they weren't getting enough education, so they built a Sunday school here, where the bit at the top would have been a bell. So it's got windows in, so it looks more like it's maybe a holiday let now. Last time I came it was quite derelict. So we're just heading into Kelvin now. In front of us where the little red tents are, to the right of that is a craft village or craft centre. And on our left hand side we have Calver Mill. So actually Calver Mill was built in the 1700s. Then it was burnt down, and then in 1804 they built the present building. And this continued to be used as a mill till 1923. After the Second World War, there was a TV series called Cold Hits. They used Calvin Mill for some of the scenes of the programme in I think it was the 70s. Today it's been converted into apartments. Probably quite luxury apartments at that, although it does still look like a bit of a prison. The ridge line, that is Froggatt's Edge, and then coming over towards the gap in the centre now, that's Cewbar Gap, and then on this side it's called Basilo Edge. We've just crossed the fields and now we're going to follow on this road actually all the way to Basilo Bridge. So we're just coming into Bubnell. So this is Basilo Bridge. It was a toll bridge at one point, and beyond it we have the church. Anyway, we're going to cross the bridge now. Now I believe that's the original lamp, but it's obviously been converted to electric. Now I've just passed a couple that live locally, and they said this is either the oldest or second oldest bridge that crosses the Derwent. Now here the little hut is being renovated, but not very well. This has been used for several things in the past, including a place for vagabonds, as you can see here. So the hole used to be where you used to pay your booth money. Oh dear, they were correct. It doesn't look like they're doing a very grand job there. And this pub used to be the Rutland Arms, but now it's actually a co-op. We're going to head through Basilo now, and up past the church and towards the Devonshire Arms Pub. So there's a bit of a difference about this church. Can you see it? That's right, rather than clock numbers, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, clock face says Victoria 1897. I don't don't think I've ever seen so many daffodils. Well, we've arrived in Basilo and this is the end of day one. Unfortunately, the battery on my camera died. So if you're enjoying this video, then look forward to part 2 coming out next week, which will be heading through the Chatsworth Estate. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. Please add a like, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. So take care, see you soon. Bye-bye, hikers.